Well, depending on where you live in the country, the pre-spawn is upon us. If you live more in the south right now, the pre-spawn is probably happening right now. If you live kind of in the Midwest like I do, or more in the central part of the United States, you probably still have about a month before this bite really shows up. And if you guys live up in the north, you probably still have a couple of months. But the pre-spawn is a magical time of year. It's one of my absolute favorite times to get out there and get on the water, because you can catch the fattest, biggest bass of the year during the pre-spawn. And I want to show you 3 baits today that catch a lot of fish and a lot of big ones. I always have these baits tied up with me. Now, real quick before I get in the video, I just wanted to thank a lot of you that showed up to the Columbus Fishing Expo this past weekend. I am sorry that I did not post videos during this weekend. I meant to have some kind of pre-shot before I went into the weekend, but my kids were all sick the week prior. It was just a mess. So anyways, that's why I didn't post any videos, but thank you for showing up. It was an awesome event sponsored by MILLERTECH. And I do want to let you guys know that if you are on the market for MILLERTECH or for lithium batteries, check out MILLERTECH. I'm gonna leave a link down below in the description. You can get 10% off your purchase there, so you can save some big bucks on lithium batteries. All right, let's get into this video all about pre-spawn lures. Like I said, pre-spawn is one of my absolute favorite times of the year, because this is the time of the year when you have a lot of big bass. You have a lot of the females that are moving up. They're getting ready to spawn, and they are very accessible to fishermen. You know, you have big males that are also moving up, and they are feeding up a lot. The females are feeding up, because the females are going to go several days without really eating. The males will go several weeks without eating. So the fish are chewing, they're fat, and they are very accessible, a lot of times being found in shallow water. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about a few of my absolute favorite lures, my favorite techniques that I use, because these ones catch a lot of fish and a lot of big ones. So let's get into the first one, and that is a chatterbait. A chatterbait is a must-have during the pre-spawn, an absolute must-have. If you guys have been around this channel or Bass Fishing HQ, you know that I pretty much have a chatterbait tied up throughout the entire year. But in my opinion, the best time of the year to throw a chatterbait is the pre-spawn. And I will throw this bait absolutely anywhere. The big thing that I am targeting with this particular bait is just shallower water. A lot of times I'm fishing this anywhere from about 2 to 5 foot of water, and I will fish it a lot around grass. I mean, if I have grass, this is absolutely the #1 bait that I'm going to pick up. You can fish it through that grass. You can pop it out of that grass so efficiently. And as you guys can see, one of my favorite colors during the pre-spawn is red. We all know how good red works during that pre-spawn time, when a lot of those crawfish are coming out of their little burrows. A lot of them are also red. Also, bass can just see red really well. Now, it's not the only color that'll work this time of the year. I mean, you can catch them on your whites, you can catch them on your green pumpkins, you can catch them even on a black and blue, but red sometimes can be very hard to beat. Now, I will also fish this around wood cover. You know, a lot of times in wood, I might kind of first go with a spinnerbait, but if I kind of feel like everybody else in the body of water that I'm fishing is fishing a spinnerbait in that same cover, I will pick up a chatterbait, because I like to be able to do something different. I really, really do. And that's what I feel like helps me to get a lot more bites out there. You guys know the little tip that I shared with you guys. If you want to get this bait through wood, if you didn't see that tip, I will leave a link for that video down below. But anyways, one thing that I do want to mention real quick about the chatterbait is that no matter when you are throwing this bait, just make sure you are imparting a little bit of action into it. Cast it out. Don't just cast it out and reel it in. Let that bait fall from time to time. I like to rip it out of grass. I like to even hit it up against wood at times, make it deflect. And even if you're not fishing it around cover, I just like to kill the bait every now and then. I'll be reeling it, kind of slowly pop my rod, let it fall. Those little things will help you to get a tremendous amount more bites out there on the water. And this little baby, I mean, it is a great, great bait. All right, let's get into bait number 2. And this bait is my bigger fish bait, my big fish. I'm not saying you can't catch big ones on this particular bait, but man, I absolutely love a Magdraft in the pre-spawn. Love a Magdraft in the pre-spawn. And this, to me, is actually, you know, we just talked a lot about a chatterbait, but there are several situations that you get into out there on the water where you will see everyone and their brother fishing a couple of the same baits. Like we talked about, they will be fishing a spinnerbait. They'll be fishing a chatterbait. They'll be fishing a crankbait, you know? And when I get into those situations where I just feel like everybody is fishing the exact same thing, that is definitely a time where I will pick up a Magdraft style bait. Now, you do not need to have gin clear water with this bait, but you do want to have a little bit clear water. I like to be able to see, if I can drop this bait in the water and see about 2 foot down, that's when this bait really is optimal for just catching bass. If you can't see it 2 foot down, that's a lot of times when I am going to go with a spinnerbait or a chatterbait like we talked about. But this during the pre-spawn, if you have not fished a lot of swim baits, I would highly suggest you start in the pre-spawn with a swim bait, because it is one of the best times of the year where the bass are truly committing to these baits. And that's one of the hardest things to really like get a hold of when it comes to fishing a bigger swim bait is having like if you go out in the middle of summer and you fish a big swim bait, sometimes they don't commit to it as well. Sometimes they're not drawn to it as well. And so therefore you're just not going to catch a lot of fish, which doesn't give you as much confidence with it. Fishing this during the pre-spawn, I'm telling you what, you will get a lot of confidence with this bait. And the thing is, I like to throw it everywhere. I really do. On all those same places I'm throwing a spinnerbait, a chatterbait, a crankbait, I'm also going to throw this bait. It also has some really good drawing power, like I talked about several videos with big swim baits. So pretty much anything less than 10 foot of water, that's where this bait is going to come in hand. I feel like even if I'm fishing 10 foot of water, maybe it's a rock pile in 10 foot, I can cast this bait out, let it get down, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 foot below the surface, and the bass will actually come 3 or 4, 5 foot off the bottom to get this bait. So it's just a great bait, and I'm telling you what, the pre-spawn is definitely a time where you can really lock this in your hand and catch really, really big ones. I mean, a Magdraft, I mean, here's the big thing. Some guys are scared of this bait. Look at a chatterbait. Look at this chatterbait right here. It's almost the exact same size, right? But we a lot of times kind of have this mindset that this is too big of a bait, where really you're fishing a chatterbait and it's pretty much the exact same size. So get over that mindset, go out there with some confidence, and you guys know how much I love a Magdraft. I'm actually getting ready to do a video kind of comparing a lot of the big swim baits out there that are all kind of in this exact same range. Another good one is a Berkeley call shad. And I will leave links for all this lures down below for you guys. But definitely pick up those two baits. You will catch a lot of fish. Now, let's talk about one other bait that you absolutely must have. This is the third one, and this is what I use anytime I'm fishing a little bit deeper or I need to slow down. Maybe I get into a couple areas and I want to slow down because there's some good wood and I want to flip and pitch that wood. A lot of times you're going to have some females that move up. They'll stage in some bigger wood laydowns before they move up to spawn. In any scenario, I'm going to pick up some sort of jig. A jig is an absolute great bait. I absolutely love it. I mean, you guys know how good a jig is. And again, kind of like a swim bait, during the pre-spawn, a jig is one of those times where you can go out and get a lot of bites. So if you don't have a lot of confidence with a jig, I highly suggest doing it during the pre-spawn. Now, if I'm fishing a little bit deeper, like I talked about, over 10 foot, 10 to 20 foot, maybe I'm dragging a rock pile, maybe I'm dragging a brush pile, a jig. That is what I absolutely love. Those three baits will catch you a ton of big fish during the pre-spawn. And if you guys want to know what really makes a good jig, I'm going to leave a link for a video that I did right here talking about exactly that. What makes a good jig a great jig? Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow.